It is your prisonplanet.tv memberships that fund so much of what we do here on this operation. And then we're more than happy for the TV show after it's aired live, then be leaked out onto the web to tens of millions of people. That's our goal. Okay, my friends, we're live. We're here. It is Thursday, the 28th of June, 2012, a day that will live in infamy. I said 6 months ago that I thought the Supreme Court would rule in favor of government-run, nightmare-forced health care and all that comes with it. And then in the last few months, I came on air and said, well, looks like I'm wrong. I hope this isn't some type of, big manipulation. But they are implying, and in the arguments a few months ago before the court, the court who allowed media in at the time so they could follow it, behaved as if they were going to overturn it, or most of it. Well, they didn't do that. And they said the power to tax is the power to do whatever they want. Well, George Washington said the power to tax is the power to destroy. They're claiming that they have the power to tax, the federal government does, and that's unlimited, basically. And it's actually true. That's what this is a tax, and it's to the insurance companies. It was in the back of the Wall Street Journal. It was in the Financial Times of London. Oh, yeah, they followed it because they own this country through fraud. Those big banks do, not the poor Brits that funded it all, that they had openly written the healthcare law. I mean, to call it communist or socialist is not accurate. It's big insurance companies owned by the big mega banks, the people that openly say they rule the world. And they have the media go from, oh, there is a world government, and it's run by private bankers, and they know best, and they're going to control your life. And they're going to bankrupt your city by design by putting their people in to sign on to their debt. They're going to steal your pension funds, and then they're going to ratchet up the taxes and take people's private property to fund the bureaucracy, and that's just the way it is. So when we come back from break, I've got a big list of things that this healthcare law does. I'm going to rattle them off one after the other. This is going to be an absolutely key worldwide transmission. So we're going to be covering all of this today, but I was driving into work this morning listening to a 1960s oldie station on XM. Because so much is going on now, sometimes it's too into music. I can't even handle listening to talk radio and what they think is conservative or libertarian. The thin facsimile, the work of fiction. And when I heard the oldie station break in to announce, never heard them do that before, that it had been upheld, it was like a punch in the stomach. But it was a punch in the stomach I knew was coming. My instincts are always right. Always right. And I never listened to them. I came on here the last 6 months and I said they're going to uphold it. I said it years ago they'd uphold it when I got to the Supreme Court. And I said, you watch. And everybody's like, no, they say they're going to overturn it. And I said, okay, if that happens, I have some hope. And of course, they upheld it. They did not overturn it. Of course. And you've got the Janet Reno / Big Sis clone. Well, Sotomayor and Kagan. McKagan's a dead ringer for the other clones, the other goblin creatures. What criminals, just look at them. And of course, Bush appointed Alito. I mean, they're all just criminals, total criminals. And I knew it was coming. Everybody's like, no, you're wrong. So I said, okay, we'll see. They say they're going to overturn it. I'll have some hope. Of course, those criminals upheld it. They're stinking, enemies of this country. You want hell? You got it. You want tyranny? You got it. You want control freaks in your life even more, running every facet of it? You got it. I've told you since they passed health care for the last 2 years that you were going to see the Supreme Court of the United States uphold it. And the entire conventional wisdom since they first started having hearings a few months ago was, oh, no, you should have heard the questions they asked. The government can make you buy a car from somebody if they wanted to, or the government, can make you do this or that. This is very dangerous. Special interests can just come and now lobby government to make you buy their product. This is totally un-American. It's totally unconstitutional. It's why for 235 years, we've never had anything like this, because it's diametrically opposed to our system. It is the nightmare, control freak, eugenics-based nanny state on steroids. And I'm going to go through a list this morning of research we did and some articles, and it's only part of the nightmare. The nightmare is so huge, so deep, I don't know how to describe it. This morning, I got the news driving to work that the Supreme Court, who was going to announce last week but suddenly backed off and didn't announce, and I made the point that I thought that was very foreboding, came out and basically upheld the entire government-run healthcare system that was written by insurance companies. So let's get one thing straight here out of the gates, okay? This is not debatable. NPR this morning had Gibbs and all the globalist minions and press secretaries of old on celebrating the people get their free health care. Isn't this great? Let's get one thing straight. The big insurance companies on record, go read the Wall Street Journal, go read New York Times. They sold it like, well, it's a good idea. The insurance companies are even for it. A consortium of them wrote it. Yes, that's why Obama's plan is Mitt Romney's plan, because Mitt Romney's plan was not his plan. It was the big bank's plan as a direct tax to them, as we've said hundreds of times. Hundreds of times. We've written articles. I can't believe how dead on this transmission is. It's unbelievable. You've ignored at your peril. And you know why? Because we do the research. No one else has been saying this. That it's a direct tax to the insurance companies to make 33 to 35, depending on how you interpret it, million people buy MD, mainline, foundation-created, controlled, Rockefeller-style medicine that we've had the last 90 years. Okay? And it allows the insurance companies and HMOs owned by Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, and those other big mega six banks that are writing up their living will about to go belly up like Enron. They're really just shell corporations. The money's already been stolen. It's a designed implosion. They own the big insurance companies on record. And this is a tax, as the Supreme Court has said. And they claim that's their power. A tax directly to special interest. Your money doesn't go to Uncle Sam. They're saying this is a tax directly to, in fact, guys, will you cue up the CNBC piece where they say we're all slaves to world government, please? Cue that up for me, because it's in your face, okay? Listen, it'd be bad enough to have socialist health care even run by good people, because it would turn into eugenics-based. Once you communalize everybody, folks are going to say, well, we got to control what you eat and do because everybody else is paying for it. And there goes free will, there goes individualism, here comes the nanny state into your life, in your bathroom, in your bedroom, in your medicine cabinet, in your refrigerator. And you notice all that's being rolled out right now. So I'm going to go through all of this, but it makes my head spin. And nothing has made me want to leave this country more than when I got the news this morning that they had just put the whole thing through. As my gut told me they would. Because, look, the elites that have taken over this country, the banksters, the Bernie Madoff, Ken Lay types that are creating the carbon taxes, and that just got upheld by a federal appellate court. This is the agenda they want. That's why the exact same thing comes out of Mitt Romney in his actions, not his rhetoric, that comes out of Obama. Because this is what they want. This is globally going in everywhere. You can watch on C-SPAN, the House of Commons. Every time I watch it, they have members of parliament get up to the prime minister, doesn't matter who's in office, Tony Blair or Cameron, or in between those two, the last guy. And they say, well, my constituent died of brain tumor. She waited 2 years to get it. It was almost 100% operable if she got surgery within 6 months, but they made her wait. And then Tony Blair gets up and says, well, I admit that's going on. We need to change that. We need more funds. Paul Watson, for a month, had a chest cold and was going to the National Health Service because you're not allowed to go to a private doctor that the elites go to unless they give you permission. And they gave him a little pack with some bandages, some Tylenol, some aspirin, and some things. And he went back and said, I can get this at the store. And he finally, with some herbs and things, was able to cure himself. Could not go see a private doctor, even though he had the money to go do it. That's what the government wants. That's the control they want. This government, all over the country, runs lies every year when school starts saying it's the law, you've got to take 40-something vaccines when there is no law. Even if you support vaccines, what does that tell you? It is a unified group of abject scumbag criminals. And it's we the people that have to start saying no to this. We've got to resist this. Now, let me give you another little nugget here. The IRS is going to get your medical records and is going to enforce this, and you've got to file with them. And they've got other legislation introduced where they can share your medical records and IRS records with any agency they want. Folks, Nixon got in trouble for just having IRS files. This is all total in-your-face evil. And why not? They've worked to get their people in all the regulatory positions, in the major court positions, and they're moving against us. Yeah, Obama is getting ready to speak about his big victory here in just a moment. And I'm not even going to go to that idiot. He's not even the president. He's a joke. He's a fraud. He's a teleprompter reading scammer. But we'll read some of the scumbag transcript later. And it's time to pull them down. It's time to stop putting them on a pedestal. It's time to, really, that's not an exaggeration that we have a criminal government. I have the Washington Post Foreign Policy Journal, foreignpolicy.com, one of their elite publications, saying fast and furious, fast and the ridiculous. In Mexico, it's taken as fact that the United States is backing the drug cartels. You mean criminal elements. And they go on to say they had lunch with Wayne LaPierre of the NRA, and he says that it goes a lot deeper in his government drug dealing and backing cartels. And they say they met with a top libertarian banker as well, and they say it. Well, they don't say it. It's in the Chicago Tribune. It's in the El Paso Times a year and a half ago. We broke it. It's in federal filings. The tons of cocaine per little cartel they've got, the guns they ship to drug cartels in the U.S., in Chicago, in Indianapolis, Indiana, in Dallas, Texas, in Tampa, Florida. I mean, go look it up. Look, they're drug dealers. They carried out Oklahoma City. This isn't the government. Okay, I said I'd give you the skinny on the healthcare law. Here it is. Here it is. The trap, number one, is this. The trap. Once they've got government control of mandated healthcare, they openly are saying through the death panels, and they've set them up. They don't call them that, but it's these federal boards that are staffed by insurance company execs, bioethicists, who decide you don't get eye surgery after 65. You don't get knee surgery after 60. Oh, you were overweight, so you don't get that knee surgery, or you don't get that. I mean, literally, they admit in Time Magazine, Newsweek, they're rolling it out now, going, well, you're paying for it. Those of you that are healthy, you shouldn't have to pay for it. Well, see, we don't need to pay for people that have made bad choices. That's why it's a free market system. But once you have that trap, now we've got to have social control. And so that's the big plan. And they admit the plan is to control everything and have the big insurance companies make you buy healthcare. It's already increased the price in the last 2 years. Just the fact that it was in place and being phased in, a 25% plus increase in cost. Most analysts said it's going to go 50% in the next 2 years. It makes more people dependent on the system. There was already charity care, but they got rid of the Hippocratic Oath 15 years ago in medical school that they'd had for thousands of years. Hippocrates, going back to that my dad was taught in dental school. You do a 30-year care for free, or you get local charities to pay for the lab work and things. All these so-called charity hospitals that are really for-profit, they're supposed to, people don't even know. I think the illegal aliens get the care. They go in and say charity care. Boom, by law, they're giving it. One of my crew members had Crohn's disease. His insurance had dumped him a long time ago. It's before he even worked for me full-time. And I said, no, there is charity care. He didn't. His doctors lied and said it didn't exist. He found out about it and had like a $40,000 surgery for free. For free, because he couldn't afford the insurance. And he was somebody making, you know, lower middle class wages at that time. They wouldn't insure him. And he couldn't pay for it. And if you pay the top dollar, it'd been $200,000. But the charity care calculation for everything put together in 2 weeks in the hospital and a bunch of his intestines removed was $40-something thousand. So they're getting rid of that. There's no Hippocratic oath. There's no you're supposed to do the health care part of it for free. It's not just about playing golf on the golf course. By the way, it's bankrupting doctors. They don't make the money they used to. When we come back, I'm going to break down the rest of it. The trap, letting control freaks and social engineers in government who say there's too many of us run everything. The insurance lobby wrote the entire thing. And it dovetails with the IRS is to be the enforcer now. The collection agency for the private Federal Reserve, who this tax pays to, will now be in your health care. And the Supreme Court said this is a tax. What an incredible admission. It's actually true. They go, we have the power to tax. You have the power to destroy, but it's illegitimate because it's out of your purview, your jurisdiction, and it goes to private banks that own the insurance companies. Oh. And like a boa constrictor, they're going to take their time coiling this system around us and squeezing us. During the short break, I was watching part of Obama's live speech from the criminal house, the White House there, that is being disgraced by all the rats and criminals that are inside of it publicly and all the different crimes they're committing, from putting our military under NATO and UN command and telling Congress they have no authority to giving al-Qaeda control of Libya and areas of Syria, as we reported 4 days ago, back on Sunday. There are special forces from the West backing al-Qaeda, getting near and surrounding the president's compound there in Damascus. I mean, there's just no end to the unbelievable wholesale evil that the globalists are funding in front of everyone, because the general public is in a trance and it's too lazy to get into the complexities of what's happening. But it's not even complex anymore. In fact, I had the guys during the break, I said, type in Obamacare does not cover pre-existing conditions. And the law comes up, the Associated Press comes up, and we can put that on screen for folks if you're watching on prisonplanet.tv. If you're a radio listener, just type in Obamacare does not cover pre-existing conditions for kids. And the reason I raised this is I was watching during the break Obama speak, and he was saying, well, we need this for families. We need this for children. You know, we don't need this to bankrupt someone. We need to cover people's conditions. It doesn't. It makes you buy insurance, lets the insurance companies control the type of care you get. The code word for that is, well, there's too many unneeded tests. The doctors are just trying to make money. No. No. Daschle, in the book he wrote on it, and that's in the health law, said, oh, well, if you're over 65, you don't need that eye surgery. You need to go on and die. This is how they run socialism. But it's socialism on the bottom, pure profit to the big banks on top. And we have it on screen. If you scroll down, Obamacare does not cover pre-existing conditions for children. And that was from almost 2 years ago, right before Congress passed the law. Hours after President Obama signed historic health care legislation, a potential problem emerged. Administration officials are now scrambling to fix a gap. Oh, it was a mistake in the highly touted benefits for children. And it still doesn't guarantee it. I mean, it is just such a scam, ladies and gentlemen. Such a fraud. And written by the insurance companies. So the doctors and nurses are no longer in control of the care. And now government's involved, and they could say, oh, yeah, we've got to ban soda. We got to ban milk. We got to ban popcorn spreading all over the U.S. Or put big taxes on it because it goes into the health care fund that's then paid to these stinking insurance companies. And you've got to go buy it from them. And that's why now that there's no market and they can force you to buy it, it's gone up 25%. That was about 6 or 7 months ago I saw that number. They were projecting 50% in the next few years. But healthcare has already gone up a bunch. Yeah, because they're making you buy it now. There is no end to this. And in Canada, in England, in Germany, I talked to the people over there. It is selective. If they don't like you, they put you to the end of the line. In some areas of England, you can wait over 2 years for surgeries that are totally operable, but if you don't get them, you're dead. Oh, you got a tumor in your liver. Yeah, if we got that out in a few months, you'd be fine, but you know what? You're going to wait a year and a half. You're dead. You're dead. You're dead. This is the scum government, the people that crave control in our lives even more. And it's all over the world they're putting this in. It's the same big criminal banks who have control the issuance of currency and credit as Ponzi scheme operators. They're in control of the whole planet. I had Rosa Corey, author of Behind the Green Mask, on today. We have moved her. I apologize, but this is obviously breaking news. We're going to move her to sometime next week to expose the UN takeover of our society at the local level, but via UN UNESCO that sets the standards. The first director general of it was Julian Huxley, Aldous Huxley's brother, who was a top eugenicist and the founder of transhumanism. They said, and George Bernard Shaw and Bertrand Russell, I'll go read these Nobel Prize winners, people like Bernard Shaw or Bertrand Russell, saying, we're going to take over with government health care and we're going to kill you, deader than a hammer, because you're a useless feeder. And who are the useless feeders? The truth is they create the useless feeders of the welfare and then use them as an army to take us out. Then they kill them next. Just like they fund Al-Qaeda to attack everybody. I'm so sick of it. People better understand the bankers learned 500 plus years ago in the black nobility wars in what is Italy today, was city-states, how to finance all sides. And they've done it ever since. The Rothschilds, all of it. This is how they work. Let me tell all the stupid wannabe liberal socialist idiots out there, chump sucker morons. Did you get free health care with Obama? No, you'll never get it. Did you get that free house, that free car? Did you get your economy back? No. And all of you suckers for Romney, he's bought and paid for by the same interest. Romney, quote, wrote Obamacare. What does that tell you about him? This has all been carefully planned out. The anti-free market monopoly banks that run this country, and you guys have that clip ready, right? They admit they're establishing world government in every financial publication. Decades ago, it was in elite financial publications like Trilateral Commission minutes that they themselves released in the late 1970s. That's how I knew. 3 global regions, shell derivatives to countries, hold the world hostage to the debt bubble that is the banks. By increment, get direct taxes in the name of bailouts transferred to the banks. It's impossible to ever pay it off, but they hold you hostage for the total transfer. They raise taxes and regulations to shut down all competition, stall economies, bring in carbon taxes, and create a post-industrial world. And then they can control everybody. They want you so poor that you've got to get your health care, your food, everything from them. And what are they saying in Europe and now the United States? If you want your food stamps, you're going to have to be up on your vaccines. So now the people are calling their bluff that it's not the law to take the vaccines that are full of cancer, viruses, you name it. We have the Rockefeller Foundation documents at Infowars.com, sterilants, cancer viruses. If you're a new listener and they're saying, what? Just type in Rockefeller Foundation documents, sterilants, and vaccines. Carnegie Rockefeller Foundation documents, cancer, viruses, and vaccines. Go read it! They're killers! They're killing us! They're murderers! It's in the game! They're training the military incrementally to have war with us. They're buying, now we've learned thousands, it was hundreds of armored mobile pillboxes. That's little machine gun nests for those that don't know. Shotguns, machine guns, armed robot cars with huge 50 cals, armed drones in the skies. 450 million rounds of 40 cal, 250 million rounds of 9mm. 100 million rounds of 50 cal for domestic operations. I mean, they're just arming, stockpiling weapons, foreign troops coming in, FEMA putting out press releases, NLE 09, just type it in, 14, 15 countries training to kill us, training for war, training for hell. And they're going to implement this massive re-education takeover that'll make Stalin's re-education and Lenin's re-education look like a cakewalk, look like Sunday school. This isn't a game, people. They mean business. And that whole act, my instinct was, this is all an act. Alito, all them, they don't want anger to build over this. They want to just drop it on us. Because they're scared of things in their Google metrics, studying mass movements, which they admit can literally predict the future. They know that if it would have been built the last 6 to 8 months while the Supreme Court was hearing the arguments and things, so the Supreme Court would say, oh, this doesn't sound constitutional in the arguments, and oh, the Supreme Court's going to rule against it. And I said, no, they're not. And people are like, well, you're wrong. And I said, well, okay, well, I hope. And then they just drop the hammer. And I want to have hope, but you're not going to get hope from organized criminals. You're only going to get hope becoming wise to them. I knew in my gut, and here at the office, I said, you watch, they're going to uphold that. Everybody's like, but they say it's going to get overturned, and Obama came out and said, I don't listen to the court, and I said, I've even said this on air, I said, I think that's all a shill to make us think that I think I said this on air, I did, that when the court does this, well, it's like, well, Obama said he might ignore him. But now, I guess we got to listen. So it's just all an elaborate shill. Just like when we were going to protest the fly garbage and the body scanners and the groping, we did an opt-out for Thanksgiving for upwards of a week and a half, 2 weeks. They just shut it down nationwide. That was confirmed. Because there wasn't a real terror threat. They're staging all that. It was, oh my gosh, they're going to say no. It's going to totally shut things down. We can't let them have a victory. It's that simple. This is all psychology. And the minute you realize that they're the enemy, they're criminals, and they want to implode things, no amount of tickets, no amount of taxes, no amount of regulations. I know what they do. I remember when they jacked up prices to go to national parks and tried to kick out a lot of the old folks that were there 15 years ago or so, the old-timers that weren't tyrants, and put in the environmental control freaks who would then take over the surrounding areas in the UN buffer zones under Bill Clinton's executive order. They told them, we may have to shut national parks and lay half of you off. And everybody got real scared for a year, and the Department of the Interior came out and said, oh, it's all right. It's all right. We'll just start writing a bunch of tickets and change the way we do things, and you've got a revenue generate, and we're going to stay open. And we're going to hire a bunch more people, and we're going to take property nearby, and we're going to sell part of our property. How's that sound? It's the same thing they call the cops in. Well, there's a shortfall. You better get out there and write some tickets. Here's your quota. All of it goes into the comprehensive annual financial report, 76% on average. Water districts, city districts. We did a big report on this. California is totally flush with money. But it's all been invested, not in pensions, but in globalist Ponzi schemes. It's all there. The numbers I was seeing last night, Aaron Dykes had an expert on going over it's public numbers, but it's just not discussed, the California CAFR, Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, and it was more than 10 times their supposed debts, and what they're in the hole is just sitting there. But see, they only talk about the budget. The budget. When we first discovered this and covered it with Walter Burien back in the mid-90s, 1996 or so, it was only in the 60s, 60+%, depending on the state, and all of its agencies, the counties, its agencies, the cities. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the permanent political ruling class coupled with the 6 megabanks. And they take, back then, 60+%. Now it's over 76% last time we checked. 76% of all the tax money goes directly into private accounts. And you know who started this? The Dailies and the mafia before them in Chicago in the 30s and 40s. It's called the Chicago 1313, and the banks and the Chicago Business School. That's all the Rockefellers were. They were mafia too. They ran most of the liquor. Go look at the history up in Hot Springs, Arkansas, where they stayed and did things. It's on record there. It's not debatable. They use U.S. government train cars to ship the liquor everywhere, producing it right there in, I tell you, it's unbelievable. The U.S. government is nothing but an organized crime shell for these interests. That's why Wayne LaPierre has come out, this is in the Washington Post, publication foreignpolicy.com, and said, yeah, no, we think Fast and Furious goes deeper into government drug dealing and stuff. Of course it does. Of course it does. That's in the federal courts it came out. And see, this corruption's so out in the open now, they've got to shut everything down. They've got to start shutting freedom of the press down. They've got to start going after everything because they've gone so far. That's the thing about tyranny. The floor drops out. At a certain point, so many corrupt people are in, nobody in the system can say no to the other corrupt people. And so it's a free-for-all. And it's just they rob everything till it collapses. And the big banks have even created a stratagem off of old tyrannical systems that weren't controlled to control the black hole effect that this tyranny is going to create. And listen, you've got hope with Romney? Okay. Go in a room without oxygen and just hold your breath and hope. You know, that a Keebler elf's going to appear and give you some air. Again, Romney didn't write Obamacare. The people that controlled him, the big banks, did. Obama didn't write it. They were given it. The different special interests got together in hundreds of meetings after that and haggled it out. And it's admitted. Hey, what about this? Elena Kagan, must come out of the same cloning tank that all these other weird creatures that engage in evil, Janet Reno, Big Sis, Napolitano, Sotomayor. I mean, who are these people? It's the joke dirtbag criminals that they put in there who will rule anything. Supreme Court ruled black people weren't humans. They wanted to build the court up in this little game where Obama says the court doesn't matter. Oh, how dare you, Obama, we hate you. Better do what the court says. Also, when it did this, he'd say, see, it was all a setup. It's all coordinated. At that level, it's totally coordinated. And now, 1/7 of what was left of the economy. Half the economy, one way or the other, is dependent on government. Half. Now you give it 1/7 more. That's, well, do the math. Do the math. I mean, if already 3.5/7 were government, and now one more of those 3.5 are left, that other 3.5 now, I don't know, 65% government. I mean, wow, that's really good. Oh, yeah, land of the free, home of the brave. Oh, there's a drone. Oh, there's cop cars on every corner, but government's bankrupt. Oh, write some more tickets, write some more tickets, write some more tickets. Pull over some more, guy driving a dump truck can barely pay his bills. Oh, but it gets better. They're proud of it. I pulled up Politico. I pulled up the Associated Press. I pulled them all up. Look at this up, Politico. Headline, Rubio, IRS to come after uninsured, and that's in the legislation, that the IRS is going to enforce it and is the enforcement mechanism, and that's what they say. They say it's a tax administered by the IRS. You show the proof of where you bought it and that it's authorized by them. The IRS is now in charge of your health care. The collection agency for the private bankers, they're the government. That's who we pay the taxes to. Or the IRS is going to charge you penalties and interest. Oh, that's going to help the dump truck driver where I drive to work every day and watch 3 to 7 City of Austin truck police pulling over even brand new trucks and harassing them and opening the engine and white glove inspecting them. I wish you'd white glove inspect the criminal government. Oh, but you can't do that. And the narcotics trafficking and the gun trafficking, and you're told, hey, go do this or your job's gone. Okay, so you pull over the dump truck driver, you find dirt on the bumper, anything, give them giant $500,000 tickets. They get too many of those, they lose their job. And then when they lose their job and can't get health care, they go on welfare. Oh, and now you got to take shots, though, since you're on the welfare. I mean, it is such, they want to bankrupt us, so there's nothing we can do but be under their horrible, wicked control. And people are trying to flee to the countryside, and now they've created the Rural Affairs Council run by the Department of Defense. And they've got plainclothes military all over the country now, training for war with our rural people, hanging on by their fingernails. I mean, this is a total savage banker raping from one end to the other of our country, and I'm sick of it. And I'm tired of it. I'm tired of articles all over the mainstream whore media criticizing me as a conspiracy theorist because I actually do original, real research. Let's go ahead and play a clip right here of CNBC. And under it, we have over 25, 30-plus articles of mainstream news saying, oh, world government's here. Yeah, it's authoritarian. It's tyrannical. It knows best. It's unelected. It's got giant armored brigades waiting if you don't like it. Criminal bankers who openly fund eugenics and talk about how they're stealing the planet and how they're going to kill you when they're done. Once they've stolen everything and got everybody locked down, they're going to release bioweapons and kill us. They brag about it. I had that woman who worked for Goldman Sachs who made this incredible film on yesterday. The greater goods, what it's called. She goes, oh, I know. I didn't put that in the film, but yeah, I had the big $7 billion a year company in my office, and he said, we're going to kill a bunch of people, and laughed about it. And so she went and investigated, and I was like, how did you find out about vaccines? Oh, the big banker, head of the big pharma company came and said, we're going to kill a bunch of people, and make money off of it. And I went and looked her up. I had no idea she was this big high-powered Goldman Sachs, top-level director in multiple countries. Yeah, Leslie Manookian. That's how you wake up. They talk about how they want to murder us. That's why. That's who they are. That's what they do. They created Hitler. They created Lenin. They created Stalin. They put Mao in power. They created Al-Qaeda. And they're not going to stop. Do you understand that? They're not going to stop. That's why it's all over Time Magazine, Newsweek. Unplug Granny, case for killing Granny, how to die, old people are gross and stink, kill them. Oh, my parents, I killed them, it's so wonderful, it's so nice. Oh, don't give people surgeries, oh yeah. This is them, this is who they are, they're monsters. And it's all fake. You tune into NPR, all Rockefeller, Annenberg, CPB, New World Order, Ford Foundation funded. Listen to who funds it, along with your tax money as usual. And you listen to it, and it's all just, oh, it's so loving for the children. Oh, it's so good. Oh, yeah. But then all of a sudden, I was listening to the head of Newsweek, the editor. She was on there. She was talking about Breitbart, but she goes, he dropped dead. And she went back into, I actually played the clip of that on the air. She's like, oh, it's so liberal. When we had real journalists like William Scher. But then Breitbart dropped dead. You just, that's who they really are. Drop dead. We're savage. We're taking over. We rule you. That's who they really are. But up front, it's like, I'm non-threatening. I'm Warren Buffett, who's a known eugenicist. And, Melinda Gates is having big forced abortion conferences right now. But wait, every photograph of Warren Buffett, he's got an ice cream cone. I'm not threatening. Oh, I'm the NPR voice. Oh, hi, it's real soft. Go to sleep. Go to sleep, Little Red Riding Hood. Never mind the big werewolf. We're real friendly. Drop dead. Oh, back to the report. That's why he dropped dead. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me get back into my little... That was a little tell to her friends about... We're in control. But, we're liberal. Don't run. We're your friends. Listen to all the voices of these fake effeminate guys. That's not how these guys really act, folks. Let me tell you, you want to find the real vicious people? Go find the elitist country club or the fencing club. Go start a fight with one of those guys who's walking around all liberal. I'm friendly. That person will take your head and bash your brains out in about 5 seconds. That's why they're in control. That's the whole gentleman act that you people don't seem to get, is to act weak and pathetic when you're a big sick predator. Now let's go ahead. Watch this right now. Go ahead and watch this. This is what they think of you, and they want you to know now. And this is who runs your health care, and this is who the Supreme Court says you pay your taxes to. And they now run your health care. You don't just pay them. They decide what goes in your body because they want you deader than a hammer. But slowly, birth defects, neurological disorders. Here it is. Here it is.
Mostly what they do is hold summits. I think that right now the question is, do we all work for central bankers? That's what I want to address to our guest tonight. Is this global governance at last? Is it one world, the central bankers in charge? Jim Iorio, you say we've got some downside here, a correction in the markets. Fine. But aren't we all just living and dying for what the central banks do? Aren't we all just counting on the fact that there's a Bernanke put and that we won't go any lower than, say, 5% down from here?
Of course we are, because if we look at the economic data, there's nothing to get excited about in that. So yesterday we saw some reluctance for the Bernanke Fed to expand their balance sheets and pump more money in. But the stock market knows that reluctance is totally different than not willing to do it at all. And that's why we saw oil implode and gold trade off heavily, because they're not a protected class. If the stock market starts trading off in the 10 to 15 to 20% area, the chairman's going to come in and throw some stimulus at it. So to answer your question, we are absolutely slaves to central banks, because we'd love to be slaves of the economy, but the economic numbers continue to do nothing but trend lower.
Mr. LeCamp, do we work for the central bankers?
We know that.
Mr. LeCamp,
We do. This is
let's stop right there. And they all agree we work for the foreign bankers. And we had a guest even lined up now with Olympic false flag whistleblowing. I apologize. I've gotten in such a controlled or uncontrolled rage that I canceled one guest, forgot I had the other guest. He's going to come up with that in about 30 minutes. So your calls. We've got a video where the head anti-terrorism researcher commander of a major city in England did discover that 7/7 was, in fact, an inside job. We've had him on before via audio a year or so ago. He did get fired over it, and he had a court case over it. There's an interview up at Infowars.com with that gentleman. I'm going to cover it later. That Patrick Henderson did in England, dealing with it. 7/7 whistleblower fired. I mean, we know how they blew the train up, the trains, the bus, how they set the people up, thinking it was part of a drill. We know about the drills, the exact targets. I mean, we have them. We know they used, Rashid Aswat, the MI6 officer. I think he was like number 6, number 7 in Al-Qaeda at the time, just like number 3 in Al-Qaeda, Anwar al-Awlaki, Fox News, Associated Press, trained secretly at the Pentagon. I mean, it's just total criminal run. You have to understand, the only reason they haven't killed me is because if they kill me, I've done so many thousands of hours and covered every subject, people will then go pay attention to everything I've done. But they still may. But it's not about Alex Jones, okay? These people are poisoning the food and water. If they were just boss hogs, I would not be this hardcore, risking my life. But these people are so evil. If folks knew this isn't a game, if you understood that the horrible, disgusting control freaks are going to take people's kids if they're 1% over too fat, they show giant 400-pound kids and say, oh, this is horrible. They're setting precedents all over the world to take your kid. CPS, if they say they're overweight, and basically people that are big boned, the metric they take your kid, they're banning food all over the place. They're going to put tracking systems on everything you buy, how much meat, how much ice cream. They're going to put taxes on that, national sales taxes, total control. We're going to take 30 minutes of calls on this subject, and then we have another whistleblower coming on. That's why I'm mentioning it. We first interviewed the other whistleblower before he went public, before all that happened, and then he did go public. This is a journalist whistleblower who got hired to run Olympic security, to be part of running a small section of it, and discovered it's all fake, and they're actually leaving it open to attack. And the intel is they are planning to set up a false flag. There's a news blackout on that. That's at Infowars.com. And Fast and Furious, they're doing damage control in the Washington Post publication, foreignpolicy.com. That goes out to elitists to get their talking point straight. And the headline is the fast and the ridiculous. In Mexico, it's taken as fact that the United States is backing the drug cartels. I don't know. It's just in, 10 or so big newspapers where they go to the federal court, and there it is on record where the federal court admits, yeah, we run this drug cartel. Yeah, they shouldn't have been arrested for shipping 5 tons of cocaine in. We did give them guns. Yes, they work for us, national security. Sounded like Hal Turner, the big white supremacist. I told you for a decade he was a Fed, and it came out in federal court again in Chicago. He was a Fed. Highest level national security. But he threatened some state judges, so they still arrested him. I mean, folks, this isn't a game. It isn't a joke. We're in trouble. We're in a Mayday situation. And all of you out there that serve this system, did you get a memo not to drink out of bisphenol A? Did you get a memo not to take the vaccine? Did you get a memo not to drink fluoride? Hey, you wonder why you got somebody in your family who's got a chromosomal issue or mentally retarded or got cancer or birth defects, and why the neighbor kids got it too, and why your buddy at work's wife's dying at 37 of cancer? Because they're killing this buddy pal. That's why. There's no way out of this but beating these people. They got a giant, overarching scientific takeover plan with brainwashed public. Men go to all these comic book movies and imagine that real men are comic book characters. A bunch of Arrested Development people. We're in a Mayday situation. Toll-free number to join us, 800-259-9231. I want to hear from doctors. All right, I have just had an hour of torture. Just focusing on how evil government-run, banker-run healthcare is. The Supreme Court says it's a tax, and it's a criminal tax directly to foreign banks. But that's not even the bad part. They're going to run healthcare and control, even if you have the money for the procedures, and after it's phased in, what healthcare you can get. They're moving to restrict vitamins and minerals and everything else. I can't stand the control freak class and all the different scum and criminals that work for it. Now they get up there and say this is so children get health care when they don't cover pre-existing conditions for children or anybody else for that matter. And it's just further meant to totally bankrupt us. Meanwhile, they take 76% of the money on average and put it into secret shell accounts. They aren't even really secret. It's secret because the public's ignorant. And I guess it's not a secret that a whale shark swimming around in the Gulf of Mexico, but if you don't go and look at it and identify it, it is a secret. And it's just the people perish for lack of knowledge. And it's all right there. It's all just right there. All how the criminal network works, what they're doing, how they're operating. And once they get this plan really in place, they're going to just be killing us left and right with all the stuff they put out in the environment. And then they'll run the cure or the treatment. And they'll have the different charity events for it. And I'll have to sit there and watch the killers running charity events for what they've done. I mean, it's just, there's never an end to it. Does it ever end? Does it ever stop? It's just evil's victory after victory after victory, and all the stupid, well-meaning people that get conned by it, like children who've had their brains microwaved. I mean, Eric in Colorado, you've heard my rant about this. The IRS now to enforce health care and penalties and interest if you don't, and they'll have your medical records. I mean, is there no end to this?
You know, Alex, I think a lot of people had a similar reaction when Social Security got passed so many decades ago. I think you're being a little alarmist.
Oh, that is an actual talking point. Yeah, and it bankrupted us to the foreign banks, and we've lost so many of our freedoms, and that's how they argue that the government, there's no Social Security there. If people took their Social Security money and put it in guaranteed investments of 3.5% a year, you'd get double the money most of the metrics show. Go ahead. So you support this. So you like what the insurance companies wrote?
I do. I'm not going to say that the insurance companies wrote it. Yes, they're going to make more money off of it. But the thing about it,
listen, punk.
People need to make.
Put him on hold. Put him on hold. It is a fact that the insurance companies wrote this. They had the head of the insurance company consortium, their head lobbyist, in the Wall Street Journal admitting that they wrote it. And you just say, I'm not going to say that they wrote it. The insurance companies wrote it. People like Elena. Okay, was Elena Kagan involved in the writing and putting it all together with the insurance companies? And is that a conflict of interest to then be appointed to the Supreme Court when she had a hand in putting it together?
I'm not sorry, but it's...
No, what you are is an idiot. What you are is an idiot. What you are is an idiot who wants to believe propaganda and just spewed out a White House talking point. Obama said that. He said a few years from now, this will just be accepted and we'll see it as good. Yeah, like 52 million abortions. Do you like abortion too? Let me guess. Do you like abortion?
I support a woman's right to choose.
Okay, I appreciate your call, pal. And that's okay, there you go. You think it's a right to choose, and now the eugenicists say, in top news, heads of universities kill babies up to age 3. And you'll sit there with that little fake, condescending NPR voice that where he relishes his voice and relishes saying a talking point at me. I bet that guy is a nobody. He's never run anything in his life. And, I mean, I know his MO right now, but he can copy talking points and feel smart. You're an idiot. Okay, I'm going to go to your phone calls here in the horrible aftermath of banker care, insurance company care, known as Obamacare going in, written by the insurance companies, doesn't cover pre-existing conditions, has the IRS make you give your medical records and that you have insurance to them, and then they take money out of your bank account, no judge, no jury, with penalties and interest. And let me tell you, the way their penalties and interest work, if you didn't buy $5,000 worth of health care, by the way, the price is going up now because of this, it turns into $15,000 in a year. And they'll come take your house because they care about your children, because the government wants you to have health care because they care about the children. That's why the Associated Press admits it doesn't cover pre-existing conditions. It's written by insurance companies to scam you, period. That criminal, Elena Kagan, that came out of the same cloning tank as Janet Reno and Big Sis and the rest of them, whatever her name is, Mrs. MSNBC host, Rachel Maddow. You've got same cloning tank. You've got Sotomayor, all these people. Janet Napolitano. I mean, what a joke. What a sickening joke. And again, some of these people appointed by Republicans. Alito, what do you expect? The government has the power to tax you. Really, any tax they want, power to tax, power to destroy. And it doesn't just let the IRS control your health care and take your bank account as they jack up the prices. And again, it's up 25+% just because of the law passing, just getting ready for it. They're talking about 50% in the next few years. Oh, that's really good because it's written by insurance companies, 30+ million people. They buy it now. Chief Justice John Roberts wrote the majority opinion. He was joined by Justice Sotomayor, Breyer, Anthony Kennedy, Samuel Alito, Scalia. Oh, I'm reading it wrong from the top to the bottom. I'm so angry I can hardly think right now. Chief Justice John Roberts wrote the majority opinion. He was joined by Justices Sotomayor, Breyer, Ginsburg, Kagan. Those in the dissent included Justices Anthony Kennedy, Samuel Alito, Scalia, and Clarence Thomas. And that's an argument right there to vote Republican. As bad as they are, they didn't go with that. And I mistakenly said Alito voted for it earlier. I was so angry I was reading this wrong. So Chief Justice is John Roberts, wrote the majority opinion. He was joined by Sotomayor, Breyer, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and Kagan. Goodness gracious. So Scalia, Alito, Kennedy, and Thomas voted against it. The problem is, if you had a mainline Republican in there who was just not as bad as Obama. Obama is so bad. I would probably, because these are such revolutionary criminals working for the bankers, that I'd probably vote for him. But, I mean, Mitt Romney supports abortion, at least he did in the past, and he helped write what became the law. And Elena Kagan helped write it. I thought that was crazy when I was reading that Alito part, but they have it written out in 2 lines that looked like it was stacked underneath each one. I was like, wow, he voted for that? And again, I'm just in an absolute rage right now. I'm totally disgusted by this. Here's Associated Press. Obamacare does not cover pre-existing condition in kids. But he's up there talking about how it's for the kids and how it's sweet and how it's compassionate. And I saw a headline earlier in the week that $17 trillion has been spent on the poor in the last 50 years and that things haven't gotten better. That's with Cook numbers. It's gotten worse. Things are worse out there. Look at it. The people have been turned into animals. In fact, guys, I can't remember if it was 15 or 17 trillion. I'm so angry I can't think straight. Will you type in 17 trillion spent on the poor with no effect, with no change? I want to get the actual headline. I'm going to go to your calls and try to settle down now. This is just absolutely disgusting to have the control freaks now in control of this. And they admit it's a tax to the foreign banks. They admit it's a tax, but not a tax to criminal government, to the insurance companies owned by the banks, who CNBC says we're slaves to, that rule us. And the guests are like, of course we're slaves. Of course we are. That's just the way it is now. And I'm not supposed to get angry by that. And then I had P-Brain call in earlier. I could tell that same slithering voice about there's no problem with troops on the streets. What's the big deal? And he calls back in, even though he didn't go by his real name, P-Brain, and he says, oh, I'm not going to agree with you. The insurance companies wrote this. Really, it's just admitted. I'm not even going to argue with you, P-Brain. And I'm like, let me guess, you like abortion? Oh, yes, I do. Okay, fine then. Okay. It's one thing if you call in disagreeing, but when you call in with that self-affected, self-important NPR voice because you feel powerful because you're part of the system, because you've cozied up to Satan, okay? We got Dr. Vishnu, Lars, Sean, Jackie, Tim. I'm going to try to shut up now and go to your calls and try to just get myself under control right now. Sean in Arizona, you're on the air worldwide. Welcome.
Welcome, Alex. Don't feel too badly. I kind of let the talking heads cloud my vision a little bit when in my heart I always knew that the corporate fascist state would absolutely not allow this this legislation to be overturned. We have to remember on a sad day for freedom and liberty, such as today, that our forefathers actually rested with the people, meant the people to be the last arbitrators of what was constitutional and not constitutional.
That's right. Juries, grand juries, and the people. But now they've put in electronic voting machines. There's not elections in most areas. We've got to admit, we have a criminal government arming to the teeth against us that works for foreign banks. It is illegitimate. Those aren't just words. It is. It is. It's criminal and evil.
Absolutely. Lincoln said it best. He said the people are both masters of the courts and Congresses, not to overthrow the Constitution, but to overthrow the men who pervert it. For 2 weeks, I wanted to get one quote on that will just shake us to the bone, and today is as great a time as ever, and I'll end this with this quote, if you will allow me, because it is absolutely apropos to where we're at and what you're trying to wake up our fellow citizens at. The quote starts as follows: "If you will not fight for the right when you can easily win without bloodshed, if you will not fight when your victory will be sure and not so costly, you may come to the moment when you will have to fight with all the odds against you and only a precarious chance for survival. There may be yet a worse case. You may have to fight when there is no chance of victory, because it is better to perish than to live as slaves."
Winston Churchill. Yeah, that's a good quote, and he said that on the radio. And no, that's it. That's what I've explained to people. This isn't a game, folks. They really do put cancer viruses in the vaccines. They're killing us. Look at the numbers. I mean, this is real. This isn't a game. And we have a childlike public who has no idea. Amazing call, amazing points that you just made. That's why I get so enraged when people like P-Brain call in and just sit there and go, "Oh, yeah, I like it. Oh, it's loving. It's no, it's not. No, it's not. They said there wasn't death panels in there when they're in there. These boards that decide the health care you get. They're killing all these babies. And to them, they think it's funny. You're going to get destroyed. Let me tell you, all of you cockroaches that love this system and all you slobs and all you control freaks, this thing's going to collapse. You understand that? It's designed to kill you. That's the sick part about it. The New World Order is a bunch of trash, but those of you that go along with this, you deserve what you get. So I hope you enjoy it. Let's go ahead and talk to Jackie in Montana. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Hi, Alex. I've got a couple of points here. One, well, maybe three. First, I thought we were supposed to be represented before we're taxed. I don't feel represented at all.
That's right. No taxation without representation. That's one of the things that started 1776. Exactly. We don't have representation. Look, we pay the money directly to the bankers that own the insurance companies, and their enforcer, the Federal Reserve, they set up the same year they got the IRS. We pay it to them. We pay it. They tell us we're slaves. They tell us to our face.
Well, I tell you what, I'm feeling like one. But another thing is the tax, the supposed tax. From what I'm understanding, it wasn't sent to the proper place to even be...
They had that witch in there, Kagan, at the White House before he made her Supreme Court Justice. She was at the corporate meetings running it with the bankers and the insurance companies to write the screw job. That's illegal, too. It's illegal to ship guns into Mexico to drug cartels and ship cocaine in. It's illegal for the UN to kidnap little kids all over the world and fly them into Saudi Arabia to blow their heads off on videotape. But they sure do it, because we're a bunch of naive idiots. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I got two other things real quick. I brought this up on Twitter before, and that's the fact that Spain's going to be counting our votes. How are we going to be able to verify or know that they're being counted properly?
It's all fraud. Look, it's illegal in all the statutes to have Congress or anybody else insider trading. And then they had the media come out right before health care to blackmail them. And oh, look, they're all insider trading. And then they let them come out and say, oh, it's legal when we do it because we said, and the media went along with that. They're just criminals. They're dirt. They're scum. They're trash. They're evil. They're going to eat us out of house and home. They've sent forth scores of bureaucrats to eat out our substance. Dr. Vishnu, Lars, Tim, and others, your calls are coming up straight ahead. But, I mean, look, folks, my anger and rage is the normal response. The IRS that has the code written so you can't pay them correctly so they can change it whenever they want to rip you off and get penalties and interest. They're now going to do this with health care and have your medical records. I mean, my Lord, this is horrible. That's why the IRS is trying to get laws passed, looks like it may pass, to not let you leave the country if they say you owe money. They just flip a switch, can't leave the country. The bankers can steal whatever they want, do whatever they want, ship drugs in publicly, laundered $376 billion in 2 years at Wells Fargo. No problem. Nobody gets in trouble. It's all just part of the criminal system. We have criminals running things. And it's the same bankers worldwide wrecking every country to get control. That's the name of the game. Because I've thought about getting out of here. At least if I moved out of the United States, though, I wouldn't have to look at all the bureaucrats. And even in a third world country, the bankers have already blown everything out so bad, there's not cops every 5 feet and bureaucrats everywhere. I can go hide in the jungle or something. I'm just so sick of being around all this scum and knowing they're murderers and killers and drug dealers and having to watch these whores in the media push them as God's gift to the earth. I'm beside myself with anger. I know I keep saying that. I mean, I'm blowing up during the breaks here. I just am so angry. Dr. Vishnu in Florida, what's your take on our new doctor, the IRS and the Federal Reserve, that controls our bank accounts and everything else? Very nice people. I'm sure they'll be nicer once the cashless society's in, though. What's your take on our new government-run health care?
Well, to be honest, Alex, I'm absolutely beside myself. I don't get this. This is absolute and total tyranny. When you have no control of your body anymore, and the government has to tell you what to do and how to live, how to be born, how to die, it's a problem. It's a big problem. And 98% of my patients here in Central Florida are geriatric patients, and I deal with them holistically, and I'm constantly having to get rid of the problems that they have due to the vaccines, the yearly flu shots they take in, and they have no clue. And on top of the fact that I have 4 children who have never been vaccinated, who were born at home, and I see my heart just falls every day to see their friends dealing with ADD, dealing with multiple immune system breakdowns due to the multiple vaccinations.
Look at the numbers. Cancer off the charts, neurological, they're killing us. And we know they are. It's not like it's our opinion. We have all the documents. I mean, they're killing off the old people. They say it in Time Magazine and Newsweek, how they're scum and need to be gotten rid of. I mean, it's so sick. And then you get some control freak calling up going, government wants to help us. I think it's good. It's liberal. No, it's not.
Especially, I believe, when you see what's going on during flu season, when they're putting the ads out. They're having the placards out in front of Walmart and CVS and Walgreens. Come in, get your flu shot. Got to have your flu shot.
And now everywhere I go, I walk down the street, it's like every 5th child or whatever, looks like it's just blasted with autism. Just, doing all the autistic tics and things. You just feel sorry for them. And it'll be a good-looking kid, too. Nice parents. You just realize, the enemy attacked them. And then some cop drives by looking at you like you've done something wrong. And I know I'm not saying the cop himself is bad, but I'm like, hey, they just brain damaged this kid. I'm sick of it. I mean, that's why I get so angry. I get so angry at the system and some moron TSA person asking me where I'm going and stuff, to like get me used to being talked to, acclimating me. And I'm just like, shut up, idiot. Your boss has carried out the attacks, you scumbag pedophile. I'm sorry, Doc. Anything else?
No problem. Well, there are 2 things I just want to mention. I think your work with Dr. Wallach is profound. It's great stuff. His stuff is great. I know his work for a long time. And secondly, I believe that if the public at large just look at what's already out there, there's an organization, it's nonprofit, it's called the National Center for Homeopathy. They're in every county in the United States. You can learn how to take care of your family using simple, non-toxic homeopathic remedies.
Exactly.
Go
That's
do
what
it.
this is all about. Even if you don't into that stuff, there's the herbalists, there's all of it. And it's all under attack by this medical tyranny run by the banks who created and financed this model of medical tyranny. They wrote the whole deal. They did the whole deal. We're going to be talking about that, by the way, in the next hour. I didn't have it planned that way for the ruling to come down today. But they sure dropped this on us like a ton of bricks. I physically feel assaulted. I don't think anything has upset me this much except for 9/11 that day. I knew it was coming, and I saw him do it, and I knew everything that was going to come after it. And it's just total confirmation. And I knew they were going to rule this way, and they sucker punched everybody so that there wouldn't be opposition built to it, so everybody would just kind of shut up and go along with it. It's all psych war chiefed. It's all coordinated at the top. The Republicans and Democrats. They might give us a sacrificial lamb politically of Eric Holder, but I doubt that because he knows where all the bodies are buried. OKC, you name it. But we will continue on after this quick break, ladies and gentlemen. PrisonPlanet.tv, Infowars.com. I'm Alex Jones. This is the GCN Radio Network, GCNLive.com. We've got a guest, a whistleblower, coming up, too, after this break for about 30 minutes, and we'll continue with your calls and the rest of it. But this is a dark day for this country. Very, very dark day for this country. The murdering, killing eugenicists are now in full control of healthcare. All right, my friends, if this is what you want, this is what you get. 130,000 elderly patients killed every year by death pathway, claims leading UK doctor. And they make the decision to not give them health care, people that have mild problems, and kill them. And if you don't have family taking care of you, the state grabs you, takes you to hospice. I'm not saying all hospices are bad, but they use them to euthanize people. And they pump a bunch of opiates right into your bloodstream, and bye-bye. Elderly patients help to die to free up beds, warns doctor. National Health Service. Let me tell you, you ever had to go to a Social Security office if you lost your Social Security card? You ever had to go to a government facility? And just, isn't it great? Isn't it wonderful? Isn't it just good? I'm going to get back into that later. Joining us is a whistleblower. The article is Media Whitewashes Olympic Security Scandal, Revelations about Casket Liners, Plan for Evacuation of London, Blacklisted. We'll just call him Lee, but he's an investigative journalist. He first brought this story to the national media. They didn't want to cover it and said that there's a blackout. They've since, he came out on, did get on news radio in England with Tony Gosling, who has his own show, Bilderberg.org, who's a great journalist. Once he was able to go on that show, there's now been some whitewashing about, there are some stuff happening. But basically, it's designed to fail. And just like we broke the plan for martial law in Chicago and evacuation if there was an attack, later it was confirmed in the Chicago Tribune, Washington Post, for NATO. That's basically what's happening here. It's a standard program. And he'll just go by Lee. The article, again, is Media Whitewashes Olympic Security Scandal. The original article was, Whistleblower reveals plan to evacuate London during Olympics. And Lee joins us now. I really appreciate you coming on today, Lee. You've got the floor. Tell us here today.
Well, firstly, Alex, it's absolutely my pleasure being here. I first went into G4S because I was concerned about how they were training people, and I'd heard some stories. And of course, you can't just listen to what people say. You have to get in there and find out for yourself. So I did. So I went to a training centre. I signed myself up to be an Olympic security officer. I already had a security industry authority license from a previous investigation I'd already done. And by the end of the day, after a brief interview, and when I say brief interview, they basically said, what's your name? I told them. They said, here's 3 cups. Can you tell the difference between orange juice, water, and thin air? There was nothing in the 3rd cup. I said, absolutely. That's orange juice, that's water, that's thin air. And they went, right, you're in. And a few weeks later, I was given my first training assignment, where I had to turn back up at the school again. And basically, they started showing me a PowerPoint presentation of what a security guard does for the Olympics. And I was assigned to work in a pedestrian screening area. Well, I am assigned to work in a pedestrian screening area, which is why I'm going by another name, obviously to hide my identity so I don't get kicked out. And so the security training is so inadequate for these people that they're dragging the job centres for everybody. So if you're long-term unemployed in London and you live in an Olympic borough, you have no choice but to go down to the Olympics. So most of these people don't even want to be there. They tried to deal drugs to me while I was in my classroom. Someone came up to me and actually said, do you want to buy some marijuana? It was. He opened the package up, and there it was. And it had that.
All right, let me just stop you for a minute here, Lee. Your phone's a little overdriven, a little muffled. Can you back off of it a little bit?
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely. How's that?
Yeah, back off a little more. Go ahead and start back over with the marijuana. What was happening there?
Oh, well, I was approached in one of my classes and by a student, and he offered to sell me marijuana in the classroom. This is a student training to be an Olympic security officer. Later on, one of the training officers who was actually training us saw him doing it to someone else, and he turned to him and said, "Here, mate, can you do that outside? Wait till the break." He actually said that. He didn't kick him out. He didn't phone the police. He didn't do anything. He just said, "You wait for a bit later so you can do that in a break." I think it's absolutely ridiculous. And it goes on from there, really.
Tell us about yourself as an investigative journalist, why you got this idea, basically how you signed up, and why you're going public with this information. Because obviously, it's all a bunch of security theater, as we've learned with the TSA, where they wantonly are hiring criminals.
Yeah. I mean, as an investigative journalist, I'm a filmmaker and an investigative journalist. I used to work on a program here in the UK called The Cook Report, which was, I suppose, the last great independent investigative journalist program that there was in this country, until we did a story called Cash for Questions, which was about 30 politicians taking bribes, and the company was bought out by a big American corporation, Carbon Communications. They came in, they swooped down, they shut us down, and that was the end of that. So we all went freelance. And ever since then, I don't want to be too specific in what I've worked on, because obviously that will give me away as well. I've been a freelance investigative journalist, and I make documentary films and what have you. And I've worked for all the major broadcasters, as well as doing independent stuff for myself. So, the reason that I wanted to do G4S, because I care about the Olympics. This is the biggest event this country is ever going to see, and I don't want it basically ruined by an organisation that, when they got the job to do the security, they received £86 million contract, and within a couple of years they've bumped that up to £284 million. I don't understand where the money's going. So I went, okay, I don't get this. I'm going to go and join the security team, and we'll find out exactly what they're like.
Why do you think they're doing this? I mean, they claim there's such a big terror threat. Why do they want the most flimsy security possible? Tell us about who's involved. I know Watson's article was reporting that it's mainly foreigners who are to be the security people. Yeah, that's predominantly true. They are. There's a lot of Nigerians, a lot of Asians who are basically the local populace of the areas, the Olympic boroughs. They're very black, heavily, and Asian areas of London, and they're getting them to basically work. They hadn't done a day's work of security in their life. They're having to put them through their Security Industry Authority license. They have to be licensed before you do any kind of security work in the UK. And so the Olympic Authority are paying for everybody to have their SIA licenses. And these people are being rushed through this program. It's not a hard program, but it's a proper test. I did it. I actually found it. You had to revise for it. There's none of that going on. They sit there for a couple of days and they get the license, which is a joke in itself, really. And then they're on to doing security training. And the reason that this is happening is that they want the worst security there, because obviously, as far as I can see, if something happens, a terrorist gets in, they can blame it on the security. And G4S, being the biggest security company in the world, so they claim, will basically blame this local indigenous population who they couldn't train or untrainable or whatever excuse they'll come up with at the time. I'm used to doing false flag operations as part of investigative journalism that I've done previously. And I proved, without a shadow of a doubt, because I talked to British agents and their handlers, between collusion between the IRA
and the British government. And in fact, one of the British agents said to me, there are more British soldiers in the IRA than there are Irish people in the IRA.
I've had members, British commandos on who were killed after they were on the show. I've had people like Steak Knife on. That got forced out by alternative journalists, but was later, for those that don't know, in the London Guardian and the other big papers, that the entire leadership cell was not infiltrated, but was run by British intelligence, and they would do violent things if they couldn't get IRA members to carry out attacks.
That's right, yeah. And, from Jerry Adams, Mike McGuinness, Steak Knife, there's another guy, Kevin Fulton. These people are all British agents, and so I've done this kind of work before. And this agent, Kevin Fulton, had trained with the FBI, had come back over, went to Ireland, and was teaching other IRA members how to make bombs that go off with the camera flash and infrared flash. So I know all about false flag operations. And this, to me, feels like the same thing. They're putting in a level of security that is inadequate. I'm telling you that now. I was at the training facility a couple of weeks ago, and people didn't know how to search a bag. They were standing there, and it was like a little test. I was standing next to one of the trainers, and the guy was going through, trying to search a bag, and he was just basically staring at it, touching it with his hands. And the trainer said, "It's all right, mate. I know what you mean." And I laughed, and I looked at him and said, "I'm glad you do. Can you explain it to me?" What was he doing? And the trainer just said to me, "Move on. Don't ask." And I was like, right. When I've asked questions about how the training's going, what sort of things we'll be doing, all I've been told is, be the robot. Exactly those words I'm quoting. A trainer said to me, be the robot. Because I was worried because we were having to wear our uniforms, our security uniforms, from the Olympic venue back to our homes, and then back to, obviously, to work the next day. And I said, well, hold on a minute. This is a security risk. Policemen don't do that. Soldiers don't do that. Why are we expected to do that? I care about my family. I don't want them held hostage while I have to let someone through a gate or not search them properly, to get them into the stadium. That in itself is a security risk. And the guy just says to me, don't worry about it, mate. Just be the robot. This is crazy stuff that's going on down here at the moment. We've also got these troops that are coming into London. And in actual fact, they're helicoptering them in under the cover of night time. If you live in Greenwich or in southeast London near Woolwich Barracks, you will hear Chinook helicopters going backwards and forwards all night long, and that's them bussing in these troops. And a British Army major, who's a doctor there, told me that he's got to look after 100,000 troops as they come through Woolwich Barracks, and then they moved on to other barracks in and around London. And he said he's seeing a lot of Americans, and he's seeing a lot of Germans, and a lot of other nationalities. And I said, what are these UN troops? And he said, yeah, I think so.
So let's be clear, you're an investigative journalist, been part of these TV shows, all of this. Tony Gosling says he can vouch for you. He's a great journalist as well. And you've covered false flag. That's on record. That these events have gone on. And now you're saying you're seeing all the telltale signs of false flag being prepared and more. They're bringing in to station all over London 100,000 troops, I guess using this really as an I-4 NATO/UN invasion cover, because I've noticed they use these drills as pretext for another mission in the future. So I'm not saying that the UN's invading now. The point is, this is just to acclimate everyone and get everybody prepared for it in the future. He told you 100,000 troops. Where are they stationing them? Where are they bivouacking them?
Well, they're coming into, by Chinook, into Woolwich Barracks. They're going through a medical procedure there and an orientation procedure, and then they're getting moved out. And I assume they're coming in batches of 100 or 120, 150. These helicopter flights are going on all the time throughout the night. I mean, it's the fact that they're doing that at night and not in the daytime, which is suspicious anyway. I don't like things done under the cover of darkness, especially when armies and governments are involved. And then they're putting them out to barracks all around London, and they're just sitting there and they're just waiting there. And basically, as someone said to me the other day, they said, well, hold on a minute, what are these 100,000 troops are going to be for? And I was told, as training at G4S, that we were going to be involved in and I'm quoting now, so I'm going to get it absolutely right, a defining moment in the history of London. This is not talking about the Olympics. They were talking about an event after the Olympics, and they said it would be a defining moment in the history of London.
Now give folks the date of the Olympics over there.
Sorry?
What's the exact date again of the Olympics?
I think it's the 27th of July, isn't it? And it runs up until mid-September.
Because I've talked to police, and they've been told, be ready for martial law by September/October. Yeah. I've talked to police in Austin, Texas. I've talked to police in Dallas, St. Louis, Washington, D.C., and San Francisco, all saying the same thing. That doesn't mean they'll pull the trigger, but they're telling these guys, high level, this is going to happen. They've already federalized, in these rapid response teams, local police, key units, and they're getting ready for a global meltdown, and I think they could use the Olympics. You know, back at the Munich Olympics, they have one day in September. It's narrated by Michael Douglas, and at the end of it, they have the former head of German intelligence admit the whole thing had been staged and was fake, and that they'd staged a hijacking. And I went to and this thing won an Academy Award. And as an afterthought, they admit they staged that at the Olympics. I forget, what year was that at the German Olympics where that happened in Munich?
Oh, it was Munich German Olympics.
I'm going to look up Munich terror attack, Munich, 1972. And again, just at the end of the movie, the former head of German intelligence laughs and says, but you know, the whole thing was staged, and we staged the hijacking, and we ran the terrorist. They ran the terrorists commanding the minions they sent who didn't even know. Can you believe the magnitude of that evil?
Yeah, and you know, and I think they're gearing up to do something like that again, because you know, as a G4S security officer, I'm going to be involved in apparently the evacuation of London, or a possible evacuation of London. That's exactly what they've told us. They actually spent quite a lot of time talking about the evacuation of London and this defining moment in the history of London, more so really than they told us about how to search someone and actually the mechanics of, you know, being a security officer. They were very keen on getting this information into us, that after the Olympics we would be involved in something. Now, they weren't going to say what it was, obviously, because you're going to need to know, but we were going to be involved in this evacuation of London. And a friend of mine said to me, he says, well, how would you evacuate London?
All right, let me stop you, because, again, this is so bombshell. It's not that they're just planning for a contingency. They're saying this is going to happen.
They're saying that we, as security officers, are going to be involved in the evacuation of London. That's what I've got. That's my quote. That's what's written down. It's not a possible evacuation. I said that. I said, well, maybe it's a possible evacuation, because this sounds crazy. But actually, they're talking about, they said, you're going to be involved in the evacuation of London, and you will be dealing with members of the public.
Okay, I've talked to Gosling, journalist there in England, radio show there in the country. Great scoops he gives us routinely. He's one of the guys that really discovered where Bilderberg would be first this year. He can vouch for you. You sound credible, but if you are credible, and this follows the paradigm, we've gotten a lot of leaks that this is coming already. If this is credible, buddy, you better come out quick with who you are. I know you want to keep going in and getting intel, but they're going to discover who you are, and you could end up, I mean, they've killed people involved in the Rupert Murdoch investigation, for heaven's sakes. I mean, stay there. I mean, you know how many people they killed who were in British intelligence, who had a conscience and went public how they were really running the IRA. This is hardcore. Stay there, sir. We'll be right back. Wow. Wow. You know, I wish that this story wasn't credible in my mind for this investigative journalist who we'll just call Lee. But I've seen it over and over again. I mean, 7/7 was a government event. You can go look up the research on it, run by MI6. Even came out, they had a former high-level FBI counterterrorism guy, what John Loftus, went on Fox News and exposed it. And it was in the British papers. But it's like, okay, the head of the bombings, MI6, they set up some guys in a drill. Some of them figured it out and ran, got killed. This guy's got a lot of courage we're talking to. Lee, you've worked these IRA cases being staged by British intelligence with the FBI and others. You know a bunch of those guys got killed. including investigative journalist. I mean, you've got a lot of courage. Why are you doing this?
Because, well, A, it's in the public interest to know these things. Because if you don't know what's going on, then you can't defend against anything. If you know that the security is lax, that you know that they're actually going to turn off the walk-through metal detectors at peak times to get people into the stadium. There won't be any metal detectors on going into that stadium, and someone could basically walk through with a bomb, and you're not going to know because it's not going to ping because it's not going to be on. People need to know this. If you've got tickets and going to the Olympics, or if you're working at the Olympics, you need to know, and that's what whistleblowing is all about. You come out and you say, hey, look, this is in the public interest. I'm not doing this to be a hero. In fact, actually, I'm endangering my life by telling you this. But it's in the public interest for people to know these facts, and that's why I do it. Because, I care about people. I care about people in my country and from around the world, and I don't want to see anything happen to them at the London Olympics or for any other event or on the tube or anything.
What do you think the defining moment could be? A terror attack, a bioweapon released, and then the troops appear from NATO and UN to save everyone, and, we learn how great it is to be occupied? Because I know they've done those drills here, NLEO 9, NLEO 10, NLEO 11. People can look those up. I mean, what do you think's happening? What are they planning to do with 100,000 troops?
I really don't know. However, what I've sort of been speculating on is the fact that what would make people want to leave London, and basically it's going to be a bioweapon of some kind. If a bomb goes off at the stadium, it needs to be, quite a large bomb or anything, but it won't be a nuclear bomb or anything like that. It will be a bomb, and it will just go off one of these probably high-velocity air bombs that they've got now, and they'll say it's a biological weapon, and it won't be. They'll just say it. And then the troops will come in, and people will want to leave London. People will be trying to desperately getting out.
Well, number one, I mean, I don't get scared of big crowds, but I don't like it. I mean, I remember being a kid at a Dallas Cowboys game and going, man, what happened if something just instinctively, a child, I couldn't put my finger on it, but now I know, instinctively, if there's a stampede, a fire, whatever, it's a death trap. And this will have to be investigated, obviously, further. I hope your story is inaccurate, but from credible sources, they say you're credible, and this fits the MO. It's all theater to begin with. Now, could the supervisor have been mistaken about what he was told? How many people told you that there will be this big defining event?
Well, 2 trainers were in the room at any one time. There's one trainer giving the presentation and another trainer basically sitting in the corner and checking what they say. And
so this is standard training, is that a big defining moment's coming up?
That's right. 800 people a day have gone through that training centre, and every 800 people that go through have been told this.
And so the rest of the story is the media needs to go vet your story, but they won't, telling us it's probably true. We'll be right back. All right, I'm coming down off of the blood-pumping, headache-inducing anger over the global crime syndicate and its private collection agency with a private Federal Reserve, the IRS, quasi-government, running my health care and grabbing money out of my bank account, being upheld by the Supreme Court after the sucker punch of saying it wouldn't be. We knew that was a fraud. Hospital stocks soar on Supreme Court's ruling to uphold Obama's signature health care law. And I had a moron call in earlier and say the insurance companies didn't write it when they're on record bragging the head of their lobby. All over the news saying, I mean, it's just these poor little mainline liberals are like little children. They just have no idea. And now the Supreme Court says it's a tax to the private insurance companies. I mean, and they just can't understand that. They just can't get it's a big scam and they're a schmuck. Let's go to Lee, investigative journalist. I'll just leave it at that. The articles are up at Infowars.com and PrisonBunna.com. I obviously want to get you back up on the nightly news sometime next week as we get closer to all of this. The rest of the story is that you've tried to already get this to national media, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I've got a contact at Channel 4 News who I regularly work with, and this story was actually originally going to go out through him. And he basically told me, he said, there's a blackout on this story, we're not doing it. And I said, oh. So I tried my other contacts at other major media, and they said, we're not going to do anything that's going to go against the Olympics. And I was like, well, how do I get this story out? And the fabulous Tony Gosling said, you know, he invited me onto his show, so we could break the story that way. I couldn't even get it into a paper, you know, or anything like that. So that's why I turned to Tony Gosling, you know, and he's great, and his show was amazing. We've had an amazing response for it.
Well, we need to get this out to people because I've never had so much chatter and sources that won't name themselves for a couple months saying, watch the Olympics, something's big is going to happen. And we know it. We know the Germans would stage the deal at the Olympics in '72. I mean, that's admitted in One Day in September, Academy Award-winning documentary. And again, the whole movie is about Islamic terrorists and everything. And at the end, they admit, by the way, we staged it with them.
Hello?
Yes, are you there?
Yes, no, I'm here. Yeah, great. Sorry, I thought you'd gone then.
No. I'm just marveling that they may go ahead with this even though you've exposed it. That's how dumb they think we are.
Well, yeah, you know, one of the reasons why, you know, I wanted to expose it was to hopefully to say, hey, look, you know, we know something's wrong. We don't know exactly what you're going to do, but you're going to do something, and hopefully expose this so that they change their plans and do nothing. That's my hope. I mean, there's 4 weeks to go, and I'm trying to get this everywhere I possibly can. I mean, you know, one example was that they were faking the bomb checks in the stadium for the past 3 years, and that came out the other day in a newspaper here. And a couple of guys from G4S got sacked, but, you know, it hasn't gone any higher than that. They said, oh, well, you know, it's these guys' fault. If you're faking the bomb checks in the stadium for the past 3 years, you put your name to it, that is fraud, and that needs to be a criminal investigation. But, of course, no one investigates G4S. They're actually above the law, and that's what worries me.
I want to set you up for the nightly news with an in-depth commercial-free interview, Lee. Thank you so much. We'll be in contact today, and thank you for all the work you're doing, and I look forward down the road. Hopefully at some time you can reveal your identity after you've been employed there. Are you planning to do that?
Yes, absolutely, sir. I will do that. It's the big reveal.
All right, well, we'll do that in the aftermath, and hopefully we can avert this false flag. We have a special guest coming up to give us his medical take on what's happening with government-run healthcare straight ahead. And I've got CBS News is going to be here to interview me. And not a good day to interview me, probably. We are into hour number 3. And for the next 30 minutes, I wanted to get Dr. Joel Wallach on today. And then we're going to get him back on the nightly news tonight for a more in-depth discussion. And we also are going to get, speaking of that's why I said Dr. Doug Rocky back on to get his take on government-run mandated health care. We're also going to get Dr. Russell Blaylock on, MD, brain surgeon, who really breaks down the horrors of government-run health care. More news and your phone calls coming up at the bottom of the hour. For folks that are holding, you can either hold or disconnect, but we will be taking calls as well as I did for much of the last hour. How they voted. Chief Justice John Roberts wrote the majority opinion. He was joined by Sotomayor, Breyer, Ginsburg, and Kagan. Kagan, who helped codify the Romney healthcare plan with the insurance companies. So she was the one in the White House codifying it for the insurance companies, who incidentally, Daily Mail and Associated Press report, hospital stocks soar on Supreme Court's ruling to uphold Obama's signature health care law. Insurance companies wrote it. They bragged they did. It makes 35 million people buy the health care and allows them to control what procedures you can get from MD-directed medicine. Also part of this tyranny is they're going after the herbalist, everybody else. It's on. They admit, by the way, the Supreme Court, I have the ruling right here. It's everywhere. You can't miss it. They're saying the government has the power to tax, really, without representation. And so you now pay your taxes to the insurance companies owned by the big 6 megabanks. That's what this is. Your taxes directly to the banks. That's what needs to be pointed out here. I'm not seeing any articles. They're all saying it's a tax to the government. No, it's not. It's a tax to the big megabanks who if you go back to the 20s, had the reports put out through Congress to start trying to restrict all the other 4 branches of medicine and to create this monolithic system. And then they sold that plan to the Germans, who accelerated it faster. You know, the first people Hitler killed was through the medical system. That's all on record. The Soviets used it as well as a tyranny. And I wanted to get Dr. Joel Wallach, and over the next few days and next week, we're going to have Dr. Eisenstein on, who's a medical doctor and exposes the tyranny of the medical system. We're going to have other folks on. We're going to have, again, people that are experts in how corrupt the system is, like Dr. Doug Rockey. We're going to be doing it all. But we're joined by Dr. Joel Wallach right now, and boy, does he have a long bio. I will not go over the entire thing, but he ran a big federal program doing autopsies on zoological animals, and he found most of the illnesses were deficiency related. And he attended University of Missouri and received his bachelor's degree in science of agriculture. Veterinarian for 30 years. He worked as a research veterinary pathologist at several institutes. And again, for humans, they do animal testing. That's why his work is so important. And universities, including Regional Primate Research Center in Atlanta. That's the big famous one, where he discovered and identified the first animal models for cystic fibrosis in monkeys. He found that he could reproduce their condition at will because it was a nutritional deficiency. Dr. Wallach then made the decision to go to medical school so he could treat children for cystic fibrosis himself. He taught nutrition at the National College of Naturopathic Medicine in Oregon and became a primary care physician at the naturopathic degree. He also established his own company, American Longevity, now Longevity. InfoWarsTeam.com is where we have the great products discounted. Let me tell you, it's been a revolution for Aaron Dykes, losing 92 pounds, not even trying. I mean, the stuff doesn't even say it's for weight loss. You're just not as hungry when you use it. Things like Beyond Tangy Tangerine, Pollen Burst. And I'm not going to go into a whole pitch about that. I'm going to have him on tonight to break down a whole hour-long interview for the Nightly News. And we also have the maker of Obama's Real Father coming on with some new developments on the Nightly News tonight. But we've only got him for this segment and the next. Dr. Wallach, I wanted to get you on to give us your take on this monstrosity of the IRS having our medical records, and we have to file with them every year, and if we don't, penalties and interest, they're going to take money out of our account now. So now the IRS is our doctor if we don't pay the money to the private Federal Reserve. I mean, this is an incredible tax directly to these criminals. I mean, I know you've talked about this forever. You've beaten the FDA in court over and over again. You helped get the ruling protecting vitamins and minerals decades ago. I mean, you're an icon, of an unsung hero fighting these people. I don't mean to toot your horn for you, but I mean, people need to understand you know what you're talking about. What do you make of all this? I mean, it was like a ton of bricks falling on me today when they upheld this.
Well, Alex, thank you, first of all, for the kind words. And you're exactly correct. This actually started in 1914. There was actually money that was put up by the Rockefellers and the Carnegies, and there was a professor who was a retired professor who they hired, and he ran around and he looked at all the medical schools back in 1914, and what he did was look at the different kinds of medical schools. And there was, as you pointed out, there were herbalist medical schools and homeopathic medical schools, what they called straights, people who actually used the pharmaceuticals were made from petroleum. And so the Rockefellers and Carnegies were extremely interested in that. And he came back to them and said, look, you have 2 separate types of schools out there, and they got legislation to support through government only that people who went through medical school and used pharmaceuticals could be licensed and recognized as, quote, the real doctors, unquote, and the ones who were herbalists and homeopaths could not be considered real doctors, and they were called quacks back in 1914.
Because they weren't able to patent all of that as easily. Now they're trying to patent fish oil and stuff, so now they say it's good for us.
Exactly. You got it. Because foods, as they are, you can't patent. For instance, we've known for a long time that niacin, vitamin B3, could lower cholesterol. Well, you know, doctors poo-pooed that for 100 years. And then suddenly now when they figured out how to make it time release and they could actually patent a time release form of vitamin B3, niacin, They patented it, and now you can pay $150 for a prescription through your insurance of a time-release niacin, and you can get it from a health food store for $3. And so the whole thing is designed to turn the American people into an ATM machine. And if you look at this, Alex, and you pointed this out quite correctly, there's nothing that this healthcare law does in any way, shape, or form. There's nothing that it does for the patient. There's nothing that makes the patient's care better. There's nothing that makes the doctor use only procedures that work. All it does is find ways to tax everybody to pay the doctor. And it was the biggest sham ever, because they said when they were talking about it initially that it was not a tax, and they passed it through the Supreme Court by convincing the Supreme Court that it was a tax.
And now they say exactly, but of course the doctor's just one level. The insurance companies and the big banks are the ones that wrote this, and it's a tax directly to them.
Exactly. It goes right to them because, and I wondered why in the beginning they were having IRS agents installed into this to monitor the Healthcare Act. Why were they putting IRS agents? Because they're going to start garnishing wages.
No, they admit it. They say penalties and interest, and now they say they're going to raise. Already it's gone up 25% just since they passed the law. Now that it's going to be implemented, it's being reported they predict within a year and a half to 2 years, 50% increases. And you just heard me read the headline here, Daily Mail, it's all over the news. In fact, guys, go to CNBC and show them. Hospital stocks are going straight up.
Well, here's the way to beat the system. I've been working on this for a year, Alex, how to beat this system, because I figured that in some form it was going to come about. And what people have to do is do two things. Number one, they have to care for themselves and stop using the system. Just don't use doctors. That's it. Don't use doctors. And so what do you do about the insurance piece? Well, what you do is you get a $5,000 to $10,000 deductible. And you just start squirreling away $50 a month, $100 a month, and you get a $5,000, $10,000 deductible for a family of 5, and it'll be $100 a month. But you have some responsibility here because you don't want to get sick. And so what you do want to do is use our 90 for Life program, which can, and has been proven in the livestock, pet animal, and laboratory animal industries, that all you have to do is take the 90 essential nutrients and you will prevent as many as 900 different diseases, including all birth defects. I'm being all-inclusive here, and maybe this evening we can talk about what all birth defects means. It's going to break the world apart when they realize some of the things they think of are choices. I'll give you a little tidbit there. Some of the things that people think of as being choices are really birth defects that are totally preventable. And so we're looking at preventing every birth defect you can name, just like Sarah Palin's little boy Trig was born with Down syndrome. That's totally preventable. That OBGYN should be put in jail for actually...
what is the mineral deficiency? Because they're telling us it's all genetic, that we're falling apart,
no.
but it wasn't happening like this at this rate. I mean, even China, their government admits most of its mineral deficiencies. I know the Amish have helped down in Central and South America get the kids on minerals, and they've stopped having as many birth defects. I mean, this is something known all over the world now, just not here.
Yes, you're exactly right. And of course, we've eliminated every birth defect you can name and 10 times that many you can't name or don't know enough to name, just simply by giving preconception nutrition to female animals the moment they're born. Better yet, before they're conceived and all through the pregnancy they're developed in, then throughout their life. And then when they go through puberty and they're old enough to have their own babies, every baby will be perfect. We have the capacity to eliminate every birth defect. We shouldn't have one baby out of 750 born with Down syndrome. We shouldn't have one kid out of 100 now in the United States with autism.
But of course, Doc, from the research I've seen, you're talking about people that had the defect because of a mineral deficiency. I mean, there's things like the eggs being old in the studies, in the ovaries, that's been linked to chromosomal malfunctions in the zygote formation. But just amazing information. Dr. Doug Wallach is our guest. InfoWarsTeam.com. InfoWarsTeam.com. And when you purchase the products there, you can also get free shipping when you sign up for AutoShip. And it supports the broadcast. InfoWarsTeam.com. Well, Dr. Wallach's giving a big speech tonight. He gives them all over the world, hundreds a year, dedicated to the work he's doing. I want to get him on the nightly news tonight to spend a whole hour with us. And he's graciously said he'll do it. Very busy guy. To go over this history, to talk about it, and then to discuss how the system knows this. And so, yes, they want you sick. And the proof is in the disease numbers. They try to keep them secret, but you can go look them up depending on which metric. Doctor, what is it with autism to go from 1 in 25,300 in 1970, what was it, 1976, to 1 in 58, that's this year's numbers. The media is using old ones of 1 in 80-something. How many thousand percentage increase is that? To have the number I saw back in the 1940s was maybe one child out of a couple 100,000 would get a particular type of bone cancer. Now it's much higher. I mean, we're talking about huge increases in everything. What is causing that? You're saying from your zoological research, and this is something I saw vets talk about, was minerals. Like, oh, those cows are calving, better give them these minerals, or they're going to be stillborn, or they're going to be deformed. I mean, how do vets know this, but medical science doesn't? Am I correct in saying they know what they're doing at the top, or are they ignorant?
Standpoint of nutritional deficiencies, and here's why. The difference between animal medicine and human medicine is simply insurance. If there were no insurance, the medical system and the government and all of the bureaucrats could not game the system. It's not a free market system because everybody's trying to get into your insurance. Everybody talks about getting into your pants. They don't want to get in your pants. They want to get into your insurance. And so in the animal industry, there is no health insurance. And so a farmer doesn't have any way to pay for long-term health care of a pig that has bone-to-bone arthritis. He's just going to be bacon tomorrow. So if he's going to make money on that pig, he's got to bring that pig to market weight in a very economic way. And we've done that by eliminating 900 different diseases with vitamin and mineral supplements. And I've actually tracked the top 20 longevity cultures on Earth. It took 10 years of research. And basically the top 20 longevity cultures on Earth are all illiterate. They're all third world cultures. Not a single one of them is an industrialized nation. They have no private insurance. They have no government insurance. They have no hospitals, clinics, doctors. And yet they have 40 times 100-year-olds we do and live 20 years longer than we do in a healthful way.
And you wrote a book on that, and we're going to talk about that tonight. In fact, I'm going to write a note on that because I always mean to really get into depth on those cultures because I've, in separate research, run into a few of those. Give us a couple of those cultures.
Well, a couple that people might know about would be the Okinawans, and I'm not talking about the ones who live in Okinawa City and eat McDonald's and Kentucky Fried Chicken. I'm talking about the ones who live up in the mountains and still think the Second World War is going on. And they're putting their wood ashes into the gardens, and the wood ashes are not really wood ashes, or the minerals are left when you burn the wood for fuel. And by dumb luck, they live in a place that has the 60 essential minerals in it. The second place would be the Nicoyan Peninsula on the Pacific coast, which are the longest lived people in Costa Rica and Central America. And these people live to be an average of 92. It's just an amazing thing. They have 100-year-old out of 250 of their population, no doctors. They're totally primitive. But again, by dumb luck, they have all 60 essential minerals in their land. And when they burn wood for fuel, they put the wood ashes, which are really the plant minerals, into the gardens. They eat their tomatoes and corn and sweet potatoes, which then have the minerals in them. And they have all the nutrients they need. By contrast, we force grow things with NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, which is all the plant needs to make maximum yields for the farmers. And doctors say, oh, don't supplement, you're going to kill yourself, take our drugs. Well, you can't replenish your body, you can't rebuild your body, you can't maintain your body without nutrients. For instance, congestive heart failure, Alex, the most common cause of heart death in America, is a simple deficiency of a single vitamin. I've gotten people off the heart transplant list by giving that single vitamin off of 27 prescription drugs and gotten them off the heart transplant list if they've been on there for 3 years in 5 days. Their doctors, their cardiologists took them off the heart transplant list, took them off of 27 prescription drugs and said they're completely cured, and they had 3 different heart diseases, including congestive heart failure, just by supplementing with vitamins.
It's incredible. Ted Anderson's dad's Alzheimer's reversed. They tested the blood and said, you can't eat leafy vegetables, or where are you getting this vitamin K? He was getting it from Beyond Tangy Tangerine. And the doctor said take him off of it, and his dad went back into Alzheimer's because, you know, they do what the doctors say. And Ted's authorized me to tell that story. Totally blew Ted away. That's when he really got behind your products. People can find them all discounted right now at InfoWarsTeam.com. There's also a phone number there on the side if you have any questions or want to join the business team and be a distributor, 877-551-1301. Dr. Wallach will be joining us tonight on the Nightly News. We'll talk more about it with him then. All right, I completely spun out of control today.
Let me tell you what. I guess you didn't know it, but I'm a fiddle player too.
Dealing with the IRS now over my so-called health care. With penalties and interest, the insurance companies. I'm going to do a report on the news tonight about it. And then that way tomorrow I'll have it all stacked up in here where it's all over the news from the insurance companies that they went in and wrote the health care plan. And now their stocks are all exploding. That's CNBC, Associated Press, Daily Mail. And I had that caller call earlier. It makes me so angry. And with satisfaction say I was wrong. I'm so sick of it. I'm tired of it. Now I know I've had Tim and the Watcher and everybody holding patiently. I'm going to get to all of you. In fact, I even had Wallach scheduled longer, but I want to go to your calls. So he'll be on the news tonight. We appreciate him joining us. But speaking of that, since I already had this right here, this is not product placement, but it is. I was about to make myself a Beyond Tangy Tangerine during the break and then ran out of time. You can notice we're out of spoons, too. We had some metal ones around there. Some little bisphenol A fork here, linked to brain damage in a new study that's out. Oh, here it is. Bisphenol A exposure linked to brain tumor diagnosis. And it's a bunch of big scientific studies and breaks all down where they're from. You can just look that up. And that you're much more likely to have brain tumors. Well, really, why do you think? Why do you think it's exploding? Destroys your fertility. It's an endocrine disruptor. Side issue. I doubt this is bisphenol A, though. It's just certain types of plastics. The point that I'm trying to get at here is that I wouldn't be promoting Beyond Tangy Tangerine and Pollen Burst if I didn't believe in it. In fact, I turn down every week people that want me to endorse products. I mean, I turn down a lot of them. And other radio hosts don't do that I know of. I mean, I later hear them endorsing stuff that I refuse to endorse. Like sometimes I end up hearing the ads running on my show and I didn't endorse it. But whatever, it's not my voice endorsing it, that's fine. This stuff is powerful. My mother is a triathlete, and she has been able to reverse. In fact, she's willing to do a testimonial. She believes in it so much, and she is very private. In fact, I'm going to get around to doing that. I've been so busy I haven't. Aaron Dykes, you've seen what's happened with him. Beyond Tangy Tangerine. Pollen Burst is incredible. In fact, I like to mix the two. That's what I'm going to go to your calls. I like doing a half scoop or 1 scoop. You're supposed to do 2 scoops of the Beyond Tangy Tangerine. But I like it so much, I just drink more of it, but just take half dosages. And then they've got Pollen Burst that comes in single packs. I'm talking to the makers of it. I like it so much about it coming out with a can of it. Well, I'm not talking about it. We're already doing it with my face and name on it. I like it so much, and I want it in a can. I want it in a container. These little packets are good on the road, but I don't know. Anyways, the point is, these little babies with all the different B vitamins and all the minerals and all of the antioxidants and all the little goodies that are in it. It's all available at InfoWarsTeam.com, and you can sign up there and get free shipping on the site. We've got some specials there. You sign up for auto ship, and your purchase makes the transmission possible. See, we're not funded by the Rockefellers and people like good old PBS, and good old PBS isn't that bad compared to NPR. NPR is really bad. I call that the double trouble right there. Tangy Tangerine. Beyond Tangy Tangerine with Pollen Burst. Double trouble. Of course, that's not available in stores, but sorry. I've got so much more energy now instead of just drinking coffee, taking those Pollen Bursts. So InfoWarsTeam.com if you want to go there and sign up or become a distributor. You can pay like $10 and then get discounts on the products. It's like a Costco card or something. So InfoWarsTeam.com. Okay, enough of that. I have decided that I'm going to even go to the next level because I don't want to get into this healthcare system. I have had a hernia for 13 years and will not go get it fixed because I hate the MD healthcare system so much. Yeah, you break your leg, they can do a great job. but there's so many mistakes, so many flesh-eating bacteria. One of my children's friends' fathers, 40-something years old, went in to get surgery done on a pinched nerve in his back, and an infection killed him a week later. I can't tell you how many family members, how many friends I've had that were as strong as a horse and went in to have toe surgery or old football injury worked on. Dead. Every week I hear about somebody dying from an infection in the hospital. So, you know what? I got this hernia, and let me tell you, over the years, it's gotten bigger. And I went into the doctor about 3 years ago, medical doctor, and then I went and checked with another doctor as well. And they said, no, that's a peritoneum, you know, the one where it's the bag that holds in your heart and your lungs and all that, at my belly button. It's not an intestinal or hernia of the gut. And they said, you need to lose 70 pounds. Well, I lost 40-something, and I need to lose another 20 or 30 before it gets too big. But side issue, that's how much I don't like the system. And I've got, because I love food so much, I've just got to continue exercising. And I'm going to lose the rest of it. I kind of hit that threshold point, and I've just got to remember to take my longevity products, and I'm going to do it. But this is what we face. I mean, I went in to I had my leg broken and had to have surgery because the bone was cocked out on the side. Didn't come out of the skin, but it wasn't technically a compound fracture, but it was about to be. And they almost killed me. 9 times they tested my blood, came in, had the head of the hospital there, brought in the family doctor and going, yeah, you don't have any heroin in your system and there's no alcohol or drugs. And they looked at me and they said, we've never seen anything like it. 9 times the amount to keep you under. Do you remember waking up and assaulting people? And I vaguely do, yes. They had to tie me down on the bed. So I'm not going under the knife. I mean, or I'm going to have special testing done or something. And then they had the IV in me that night. It came out. There was blood all over me. And then I got an infection. This was a nice hospital in Wallach, Texas by Dallas. So I don't know why I'm going off into that story. It's just the nightmare. The nightmare of having to go under IRS banker-controlled health care, because that's what this is. This is what they do everywhere. This is the globalists running your health care completely, and in your bank account and in your medical records, it is hellish. And again, if you're a new listener, you're like, what does heroin have to do with waking up on the operating table? Because normally you'd have to be a total drug addict, you know, who's got the liver, you know, that's been trained to not have opiates not knock you out. I'm the opposite. A few times, well, they tried to give me pills when I left for pain, and I would throw up when I took them. The point is, opiates and Alex Jones do not mix. Never liked them. I remember one time I had a shoulder dislocated, and I tried some kind of opiate pill. Oh, my gosh. Talk about side issue. I don't want anything to do with the mainline medical system. Nothing. Just last week, one of the children that my daughter plays with and is friends with for several years, who I'd met her dad out at sporting events and stuff, he dead. Went to the hospital. My friend, my childhood friend, Ryan, who I knew from age 3, lived in Austin. He moved down here when I moved down here a few years after. His mom and dad moved down here. Died of an infection from going to the hospital. All right, I'm ranting. You've been holding long enough. Tim in Connecticut, you're on the air. Thank you, sir. Are you calling in about government, Federal Reserve, banker, healthcare, a direct tax to them, or are you calling in about something else?
I'm calling about the healthcare.
Okay.
You know, I've been following this all morning. I just had a couple quick things to say. You know, they already control our money. You know, I think this is going to be a little bit more having to do with the RFID chips. And the other thing I wanted to say is, did you see Charles Payne on Fox Business News? They had the enlarged $1 bill in the background and the little Illuminati owl right up in the corner. And every time he came on, it kept getting bigger and bigger. I mean, just throwing it right in our faces.
No, listen, they're now, that's what's freaking me out. They're going, yeah, the UN kidnaps little kids. What's the big deal? Yeah, we put cancer viruses in your shots. Yeah, world government, you're a slave to the banks. And they're now saying it everywhere. And yeah, I see the symbolism. They put out an operation. They put out a new Katy Perry video that was clearly Operation Monarch Mind Control with all the programming and showing the little kids. I mean, it's just in our face. Look, the world's run by a bunch of lunatics. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I got two small kids. I have a 10 and a 12-year-old, and I fear for their future. Big time, I fear for it. They won't let my son go into 7th grade until he gets vaccinated. They keep sending letters home.
Sir, they have a waiver by law. There is no law, but by law they've got to give you the waiver to the policy. They are lying criminals. Have you heard me talk about that?
Yes, I have, and I keep telling my wife they are not getting vaccinated. I don't care.
Sir,
they've had enough shots.
Guys, type in Connecticut vaccine waiver form. I'll give you the name of the actual code from the health department. That's the eugenics department there to make sure you and your family get killed as quickly as possible. Look at who set up the health department. God bless you. Good to hear from you. Let's go to Sean in Tennessee. You're on the air. Thank you for holding.
Hey, how's it going, Alex?
Oh, not too good. I mean, they just closed the noose a lot tighter around our old necks.
Yeah. Hey, I just want to make 3 quick points, if you'll permit. I'm a former police officer. Number one, if Americans don't get their moral fabric back and repent, nothing's going to happen, but light will always overcome darkness. That's something I believe wholeheartedly. But the other thing is every citizen has the same arrest powers as every other police officer. And if a police officer is acting unlawfully or a TSA agent is acting unlawfully, you should arrest them. That's how you have to do it. You cannot ask criminals for your rights. You have to take them and exercise them, the same as the pro-gun carry law. As a police officer, if you're acting unlawfully and you're trampling the rights and violating your oath to the Constitution and your state, the citizens have a right to rebel against that lawfully and call a supervisor, put it on 911 or the 911 recording, and call for another jurisdictional agency. Like if you have to go against a city police officer, get a sheriff's department.
The point is a nation of sheep will be ruled by wolves, and they're doing their best to put criminals in everywhere or people that think we have no rights. And folks, have you noticed, since we got rid of the Bill of Rights and Constitution, it's getting dark real fast. What do you think of this whole health care thing?
Well, it's just, your last caller just said he's not going to get his children vaccinated. I mean, to me, it has sealed, like John F. Kennedy said, those who make a peaceful revolution possible, make a violent one inevitable. I mean, if people come to try to take my child, I'm not going to allow that. And there are a lot of great police officers. And I know that they're talking in the wings. A lot of them have a lot of talk, but they're not going to say it on the top of the waves because they could lose their jobs or be looked at strangely. But it's not, if you're acting unlawfully, you shouldn't have the uniform. That's all.
Well, here's the deal. People better get looked at strange and better get in trouble. They can't stop us all saying no. I mean, my gosh, listen, the ATF last year tried to ban 63% of shotguns manufactured in the last decade, saying if they're bottom loading, they could be altered so they're illegal. And people said, okay, come try to get them. You're right. It's a certain point. I'm not looking for trouble, but nobody's touching my children. Nobody's putting anything in them. Nobody's doing, it's over. I mean, exactly. I don't like talking about it, but I'm done. I'm done with these crooks. And that's why they're massing all this force against us. Doesn't matter. They don't have moral authority. It's weak. All of it is garbage. Anything else, sir?
Yes, sir. The good police officers and the good military guys like Stuart Rhodes and others who know their oath and understand it, I believe that the time has come for them to be a lot more vocal. The more dangerous it gets, the louder we should scream. We should never sit down, and only with God's help and having right on our side can we keep on a-coming.
I hear you. That's the founder of the Texas Rangers said that. Folks, I've read the Health Care Act. I know all about it. I wish it wasn't bad. This is not hyperbole. It's horrible. It's horrible, 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 and it's designed to get worse over time. They know how to kill us, man, slow. It's not going to get phased in for another year, and then it metastasizes, and it takes over, and you pay it to foreign banks. The Watcher in Mass. Thanks for holding her on the air, Watcher.
Hey, Alex.
Hey, buddy.
I don't express my opinions.
Sir, I can barely hear you. Speak up.
Okay. 1 second.
I need you to talk right to your telephone, brother. I want to be able to hear you. Go ahead.
How about now?
Go.
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. I normally don't express my opinions. I watch and I wait till it's time to act. It's time to act. The Constitution has been slaughtered, and it reminds me of a song by Green Day, The American Idiot. I don't see that there's anything that's going to wake up the major population at this point. And, I don't want violence to be the action, but unfortunately I believe they're going to force that at this point. When the justices just cow down to the tyrant president and his administration, what other choice do we have but to follow our founders and do what they would have done?
Well, what we do is we go out first to all of the... I understand the physical angle, and why people think of that, but we should go to all the city halls, all the meetings, all the little public meet and greets with these Congress people, and say, listen, you little rat, you repeal this tax to the private Federal Reserve. Listen, the fact that this money is paid to the Federal Reserve, the average person, when they learn this isn't just a tax, but it's a tax to insurance companies. Listen, they're gearing up against us. They're probably going to start a fight. But I think whoever shoots first loses. Our forebears didn't shoot first. And, when the government comes to take the guns, things like that, or individually, you got to do what you got to do to protect yourself. But, here's an example. Who do you go after physically then?
Who do you go after physically? Yeah, that is the big question, since everybody we're supposed to go to for protection and to stand up for our rights and enforce the Constitution are violating it. Now, beyond that, I have one other question. I need your
sure, throw it
opinion.
out. Throw it out. Throw it out.
Do you think Syrian girl is legit?
Well, yeah. She's just a guest. Lives in another country, doesn't live in Syria now, and she's criticizing how they're using Al-Qaeda. She's legit giving her perspective on it. The news she covers is right out of the news. So, yeah. Oh, boy. It is horrible what's happened. And it disgusts me to levels I can't even describe. But we've just got to take this anger and get it out there. That's why we have the Obama Scumbag Dictator Contest. Phase 1, $5,000 winner. $10,000 phase 2, not this Friday, but next Friday. By midnight, have them in. I'll announce the winner the next... oh, my gosh. I've got to announce the winner of the reporter contest today on the Nightly News. And, guys, remind me to play those tomorrow, the male and female winners on the show. This is a big deal. And, again, they win $5,000 apiece. They win $5,000 apiece, and then they're in the running to get hired here if it all works out, and they want it, and we want it. And we've got other great people here in the office as well that are starting to do reporting for things like PlanetInfoWars.com. We've got Christy. We got Darren McBreen. We got Aaron Dykes. We've got Paul Watson doing it. We've got Rob Dew doing it. So we're going to have a lot more reporters. What we need is a couple more video editors, a couple more reporters, another graphics person or so, because we're overwhelmed. I'm not complaining. But it just gets, we had like 600 plus good submissions. And months went by just trying to figure out who the winners were. I'll be quite frank with you. We've got it down to like 4 or 5 people. I've got to go after the show and do a CBS interview. And then I've got to start doing the news. And I got to do 2 interviews for the Nightly News. I'm not complaining. I just don't know. I was supposed to choose the winners last night. And I'm like, well, is it them or is it her or is it him? So, the reason I'm not announcing it now is I still haven't figured it out. Talk about look out too successful of a contest. Over 600 good submissions. 600. And everyone gets an A for effort. Everyone did a great job. So many great videos. All of you. And then I feel bad not letting everybody be a winner. And then I want to hire, of the top 10, I want to hire like everybody, but I don't have the money. We better sell some Beyond Tangy Tangerine at InfoWarsTeam.com. And I want to, everybody's good. We got CJ new on the crew in the last month, really, in the last few weeks, really kicking butt. And so we're trying, excuse my French, we're really trying to go to the next level. We're really trying as hard as we can for you. And all I can say is instead of getting angry like I do, I mean, I blew up today on air and off air because this is so upsetting for my family and your family. But we need to really realize how bad this is. I mean, this is horrible. People say, oh, don't fake cry. No, I'm holding back tears. And it's not like you even, like, physically, I feel sad and bummed out, but it's like your body is sad. Like your body's like, you should be crying, and you start feeling your eyes water. I mean, it's like, this really is horrible. This is so horrible, the direction this country's going in. And again, this health care plan is so unconstitutional. And it's so horrible. Come on in. Oh, yeah, well, they can come on in, but the show's basically over now. Yeah, come on in, guys. And then we're going to go do the nightly news tonight as well. So when we've got a news crew here doing an interview. So that's it for this hour of worldwide transmission. Sorry to some of the callers. I got to most of you. But we'll be talking about this more, obviously, here on the broadcast in the future. Big news dealing with the troops being massed in and around London at Infowars.com. Here is a story out of the London Telegraph. Olympic roof missiles residents to launch legal action. So we're going to be watching that report as well. I tell you what, we'll do some overdrive and go to some of these callers. We'll be back in 60 seconds. Man, this county shining light. Endorsing Mitt Romney was a punch in the stomach. This is like 100 punches in the stomach. And the way the media played it, like, oh, they weren't going to rule for Obama health care, the takeover of health care. And then, of course, they did rule for it. Very, very frightening to know that even if Mitt Romney gets in, that he supports it. Like Obama saying he'll legalize the illegal aliens, and Mitt Romney comes out and says, yeah, I'll do that too. But then gives speeches saying he won't to conservatives. It's just amazing because they're bought and paid for by the same people. Let's talk to Janine in Minnesota, then we will take a few other calls as well. Janine, go ahead.
Hey, Alex.
Hi.
Breaking news. This new ruling, they've been doing it to me for about 8 months. The money's just disappearing out of my checking account. I didn't give them any information. I got a phone call saying we're going to charge you $50 a month and $100 a month as a penalty. It just goes out of my, and I'm on.
Well, I saw that 2 years ago, even before they'd passed the law. It came out in the news that the state was already telling people they were going to start forcing them to do it, and they would take the money. You're saying in Minnesota, they take money out of your bank account for health care?
Yeah, and I'm dying of cancer.
Oh, my God.
Third type of cancer. And I used to work for the Mayo Clinic.
That's just terrible. So who's taking it out? The state of Minnesota?
IRS. No, it's the department. I get pieces of mail from the Treasury Department.
I knew they were already phasing it in. So even before the Supreme Court ruled on this, they were already sucking money out of your bank account.
On a $1,500 bill, they put a levy on my home.
My God, that is so incredibly predatory. We're going to have to look into this. I mean, I knew, as soon as you talked about it, I knew that I'd seen reports of it. But wow, so they take money out of your bank account, the IRS, the Treasury Department does, claiming that that's for your health care.
No, claiming that it's to pay for medical bills that I had incurred. And it's $50 just the bill, and then $100 in penalties. And I didn't give them any information. They had.
And I'll tell you what's amazing about this. They're not supposed to be able to take people's bank accounts for medical bills. You're not supposed to even be able to call them. I said I try to stay out of hospitals, but one time I did cut my finger really bad, and they called an ambulance. It happened on a lake, and I said, okay, I'll ride in the ambulance. And it drove like 40 miles an hour and everything, and got there. And I paid everything. I had insurance, and I paid, and I kept getting this $500 bill for the ambulance, and went and looked. We'd paid it, and they just didn't stop calling. My goodness. So this is already happening. Treasury, we have to look into this. The Treasury takes money out of your account to pay for medical bills.
Yeah, I just got a phone call notifying me that it was happening.
How long ago did this happen?
8 months.
So 8 months before this had been upheld by the Supreme Court, it was already happening. Well, here it is. They call it a tax, and they take the money and give it to foreign banks. So that's what this country's turned into. God bless you, ma'am. Sorry to hear you have cancer. And a lot of cancer is viral, so if you work around it a lot, you can get it. What type of cancer did you develop? All right, she's gone. We are out of time, ladies and gentlemen, for this segment, but we shall return in the retransmission. A lot of stations and XM carry this hour. It's really the first hour. I break down the healthcare plan. Get ready for the rage, because I remember how hot I was at the start of the transmission. Stay with us.